What would you like to see change in your life? And what is the biggest obstacle that you're facing now? I run a 5-week program at the Inner Knowing School for serious individuals who are ready to take the next step in their personal and professional lives. I will personally be coaching a small group of individuals, a number of practical tools and frameworks for creating an intuition practice and for self mastery. You can find more at theinnerknowingschool.com. I have a master's certification in intuition medicine, and I've condensed 10 plus years of experience and research navigating how to harness your energy and intuition in an easy to access live curated course. Now, as someone who's helped countless creatives, entrepreneurs, and many who are just plain stuck, open doors of possibility they never thought existed, I've seen this strategy transform people's inner states and external reality. And the best part is that you'll skyrocket your output and unlock your creative genius. I'll work with you weekly live to overcome your limiting beliefs and show you how to manage your energy instead of your time. I'll teach you how to create clarity, processes, develop your intuition based on some of the top tools and frameworks that I've developed. And you'll get access to guided meditations and visualizations not available anywhere else. This method is so effective that even if you don't have that much time, or if you think that you might not be ready, this will work for you. You can check out the link in the show notes to join the waiting list, and you can check out what past clients had to say about the program. Wishing you all many blessings ahead. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Blood Moon Box, a monthly subscription box service for period pads and tampons to help support all humans who have a cycle for that time of the month, and no need to run to a store to mix and match period supplies that don't cater to the entire ebbs and flows of your cycle. There are 2 box options based on your cycle, light and medium, and then heavy. And in addition to the period products, you'll also receive PMS herbal teas, a candle, and some other items for your time of the month. You can reserve a box by navigating to bloodmoonbox.com. And bloodmoonbox.com is on a mission to destigmatize the idea of period blood. At Blood Moon Box, they believe that it is the time to honor the enchanting magic within every person who has a cycle. So join us in embracing the magic of your cycle with Blood Moon Box. Hi, my name is Yasmin Tarehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. On today's episode, I'll be speaking with Renee Garcia, a certified reality transurfing instructor and an alternative space adventurer. Having ventured deeply into the metaphysical world of reality creation, she has transformed personal failure into success, poverty into abundance, sickness into healing, and a bleak worldview into one brimming with joy and magic. Renee has employed reality transurfing to discover fulfillment, true purpose in life, and connect with the highest version of herself. And with a self-built practical methodology and magical wand in hand, she is now empowering others around the world to do the same. She's developed the only English language reality transurfing instructional program, which serves as the backbone for the International Transurfing Institute, which she founded in 2015. I'm so excited to welcome Renee to the show. I've read Reality Transurfing twice and all of Vadim Zeland's books, and I've also gone down the rabbit hole of her YouTube channel. And so I'm so excited to welcome Renee to the show. So welcome, Renee.
Oh, thank you so much, Yasmin. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So Renee, to kick it off, can you tell us, what is your overall perspective on being able to create our own reality?
Wow, that's a good that's a good starter question. I had a realization shortly before I left the US last year, and I felt for I've felt this way a lot of times in my life, but at this moment before I left the United States on this epic adventure I was getting ready to go on, I thought to myself, how have you gotten here? How have you developed your life to an extent that you're in your mid 40s and you still feel like a 17-year-old, you know? And I just keep coming back to the same idea. And as I move on in my transurfing practice, it just becomes deeper and more profound. And that is that I have stopped taking reality at face value. And this is sort of what divides, I believe, people that get stuck in what I call a reality rut, you know, some monotonous kind of existence where every day looks like the next and feeling as though you're missing out on something, or, you know, adventure and opportunity and all these, you know, uh, flights of fancy in life are intended for other people, but not for you. This is kind of where there's a fork in the road. People that believe that reality just is the way that it is get that, you know, monotonous kind of reality. And then people that challenge that and stop viewing reality as some static, you know, one size fits all kind of system, matrix, however you want to put it. But for me, I feel like I just really have, as time has gone on, I believe more and more and more in the malleable nature of reality and the infinite nature of reality. And as this happens for me, my life continues to unfold in some pretty pretty epic ways. And yeah, this is sort of my mission, is to help try to coax others along in shedding some of these beliefs about a static reality and realizing that it can be like a dream. It can be a playground, a buffet, whatever you want it to be. It's just an ongoing practice that needs the right tools and, you know, to maintain cultivating this belief and extracting from things like reality transurfing or whatever else could help you connect with some higher, better variations of reality.
Hmm. Renee, thank you so much. I want to double click on a couple things because you said a lot. And, you know, I think for people listening to this, some people, actually probably most people listening to this, because we've got 70 plus countries represented in our audience, they might be new to reality transurfing and the idea that, you know, there are tools to help us create our reality. I hate the word create. Maybe it's more like observe our reality. And, you know, you spoke about people that accept the reality at face value and then other people that sort of challenge the reality. And you said you don't take reality at face value. So I want to actually talk about this concept of the mirror, you know, because I think that's a big part of reality transurfing and why so many people feel so stuck, feel so monotonous, and also are kind of bewildered by the idea that you could create so many different layers of reality. So can you kick us off and let us know, like, what does that mean?
Well, where do I start? This is an excellent, yeah, this is an excellent place to start with transurfing, because the mirror concept, the mirror world, is sort of the idea where your outer world, which is your environment where you live, everything that you're experiencing in your life externally, and your inner world, your thoughts, your beliefs, your desires, all that stuff, it's where the two sort of collide. Because one of the fundamentals of reality transurfing is that we are creating our experience of reality internally. The external world is just a reflection of what is happening inside of you. Again, thoughts, desires, beliefs, all that kind of stuff. So this is, this is kind of a hot topic because, some people have sort of suggested that reality transurfing could be victim blaming, right? When somebody's not seeing what it is they want to see in their life, you don't want to blame, you don't want to blame the person and say, listen, you're creating it. Because backtracking even a little bit further into why and how the mere concept actually works and helps us to create a better experience of reality, we have to understand why it hurts us if we don't know what it is we're doing. And it's simply because just that. When you're not aware and you're not conscious to what it is you're doing in your life, and then that's creating a product, it's not like you're accountable because you don't know. This is, it's kind of like, you get off the hook until you do know, which, happens for a lot of transurfers, people that find this modality and start to implement it. There's this awakening, right? And once you do awaken, and it's the classic example, and we use it all the time in the community, is the scene in The Matrix, the first Matrix movie, where Neo wakes up in the vat of sludge pulling the things off him. He has the choice between the red or the blue pill, and he decides to wake up. So once you develop an understanding of how your thoughts and your actions and your beliefs and all these things create your reality, then you can't go to sleep again. That's no longer an option. You can, and some people definitely have, but there will always be this sort of nag in the background that you are doing it to yourself, whatever it is for you. And this is a really, really tough pill for people to swallow sometimes. I know for me, and I actually just wrote about this in one of the chapters of my book that I was editing today, that, there was this moment where I had this crazy experience in Los Angeles, and leaving a life of 15 years and sort of throwing it all to the wind, and retreating for a extended sabbatical in the mountains by myself to sort of collect myself after things epically imploded in my life. And I read Reality Transurfing, and I was like, oh my God, I have the ability. I'm given a second chance here. I have the ability to create a new experience for myself and live a different way. I get to hit the reset button. But at the same time, I also knew that I had created the whole mess. I could get myself out of the whole mess and recreate something entirely new for myself. But my mind also holds the capacity to convince myself of a bunch of other things that ultimately aren't good for me. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. When you have the power to get yourself into a really dark place, you also have the power to get yourself to a really light place as well. And this is just, this is the physics and the, kind of pseudoscience, if you will, behind awareness and why self-awareness and going deep within and really going on a path of self-discovery can help you to resolve like a lot in your life and get the mirror responding back to you with a different image. So a lot of people, they want things to change, but they don't want to focus on where the change can actually occur, which is the self. This is the only place that change can occur where you can experience a difference in your external environment. And in transurfing, we, oftentimes regard this kind of frozen or blaming state as being transfixed with the reflection you see in the mirror, ignoring where the image is originating, which is you. And, again, it's like Pandora's box. It's Neo taking the tubes off of him in the vat of sludge. It's once you see this and you understand your ability to create your reality in either direction, then you gain some control of things. And then if you take it beyond that, you could, sky's the limit. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff like I'm doing right now.
I can't wait to dig into the crazy stuff that you're doing because I've been following your journey. But I want to actually, I love it so much. I'm just, I'm very inspired. So Renee, I want to actually talk a little bit about what you just said and give folks listening a kind of example to ground in, because I think, for people that are new to these concepts, I think they might need to understand how it actually works in like the 3D world, right? So let's take, someone, what's like a common thing that most people are suffering from. I would say maybe like low self-worth or unworthiness, right? And usually a pattern shows up in someone's life. There's a rejection in career or rejection in relationships or even health issues, whatever it is, whatever comes up. But there's something that keeps manifesting, and it's a pattern, right? It's not just a one-time thing, but it keeps coming up. So how would you guide someone who has been, kind of in this spot of low self-worth, and it's maybe subconscious, right? What would you, and we could, this probably is a leading question into the whole slide technique, but I'd be curious, how would you walk someone through creating a new reality for themselves if they wanted to get out of it? And feel free to use whatever example you want, because this is obviously hypothetical.
Okay, so it really the way out, the way to evolve, it's the same for any scenario. If you're having problems with money, if you're having problems with relationships, if you're suffering from low self-worth, if you're continuing to see health things come up, it all is worked out by the same method. What happens is, well, let me backtrack a little and just explain what the alternative space is for a moment, because this is a crucial part of understanding information and how we attach ourselves to information, and how that information we attach ourselves to ends up materializing in all sorts of ways, either negative, things we don't want to see in our lives, or positive, all the good stuff. So the alternative space is our world. It's everything that's external to us, but it also includes us. It's vast, it's infinite. There's lots of there's lots of ways that the alternative space is represented in all sorts of philosophies and religions, and it's the infinite vast universe and all the options and variations it contains, and information, also events and different versions of how different scenarios can play out. It's everything. So what happens is we as human beings develop a theory about something. It could be a theory about ourself, our financial reality, our romantic life, our whatever it is. We develop these theories. And then we kind of move through reality with this sort of confirmation bias. We look for information and evidence to support the theory that we've created, because this is incredibly comforting to the human being to feel like they've got something right, even if they're wrong. Even if it's something like, oh man, nothing good ever happens for me. So when you say, oh, nothing good ever happens for me, then you move through your world looking for ways to confirm that. So when it happens, you could say, oh God, I was right. Nothing good ever happens for me. So somebody suffering from low self-worth is simply moving through life looking for information to confirm that belief about themselves. And if you don't catch yourself, it'll take you to the what we call the lower levels of reality, the place where you don't want to be, where depression exists, anxiety, and more low self-worth, and other people in your life responding to your low self-worth, and everything just sort of seems to come together to support this negative theory that you have about yourself. Again, waking up to what it is you're thinking, why you're thinking these things, what you're doing in physical reality, or the actions that you're taking that support these ideas or beliefs about yourself. It pretty much all becomes about that. That's why somebody that, let's say, suffering from low self-worth isn't going to necessarily experience a version of reality or events or opportunities that is going to connect them with higher sense of self-worth. Those things might pop up, but the person suffering from the low self-worth is not going to see those things. They're just going to see the things that they've chosen to see. So when you awaken to this idea and you realize what it is that you've been doing, then you have the power to make another choice. And we say in reality transurfing, there's evidence to support all theories. And what this statement means is that there is literally evidence to support any theory there is. That's why political parties collide, right? Like in the US, we have these, crazy opposing political parties, and one side saying, no, but we're right, we're right, we're right. And then the other side is like, no, we're right, we're right, we're right. Well, what's happening is nobody's actually wrong. Both parties are right. They've just both decided to highlight information and evidence that they come across to support their theory. This is why you can get, these sorts of situations happening. But on an individual level, it's exactly the same. Which is what I've done. I came from, absolute depravity of, I was the lowest type of thinker. I had epically low self-esteem and was devastated by low self-worth for years. And this resulted in a life that, just gave me more reasons to feel all of these ways about myself. But then when I finally woke up and I was like, oh, wow, I can actually do something else. I can choose a new character. I can choose a new me. I can choose a new reality. And I went about moving through my life using these concepts. That exact thing materialized for me. And 7 years after the fact, here I am today, living an entirely different version of reality, but more valuably, an entirely different version of myself.
Wow. Really profound, Renee. And I love, in 7 years, so much can change. I want to also talk about this concept of time, because I think a lot of people maybe are curious, does it take long to shift into these different timelines, right? And so what would you tell someone who's kind of working on themselves, maybe shifting their self-concept, shifting their belief about themselves and what their, let's say self-worth is an example? What are some of the things you started to see in your own reality, and how quickly do people see the change? Have you sort of seen an average amount of time, or is it just really different for everyone?
Well, I'll start off by explaining what happened to me at the onset of finding transurfing, which was completely by accident. And when I did find it, there was virtually nothing on this knowledge. Like, there wasn't even the steps 1 through 5 book yet, which is kind of like the Bible now. All there was some first edition books that were out of print, very, very hard to find and very expensive. And there was one single audiobook on YouTube called The Space of Variations. And I saw somebody mention transurfing on Instagram, and this, I've tried to explain it before, but it still eludes me what happened in this moment. It was like 2 words on my phone, scrolling through Instagram, seeing these 2 words, reality transurfing. It's like I never saw 2 words that held so much meaning. It was almost like a porthole had opened up before I even knew what it was. There was just something wild that happened. And I hope that down the line I can start to describe this a little bit better, because, again, to this day, it's still really crazy when I even think about it. It was me connecting with a variation of reality that was intended for me, and something happened in that moment. And I just knew that I can't even, I want to say that everything was going to be okay, but it even transcends that. I didn't even know what it was yet. And so I see these 2 words. I immediately go to Wikipedia. There was this short little blip on what transurfing was. I found the audiobook, and at the time I was living in Portland, Oregon. I put the audiobook on and was doing these epic night walks where I'd walk like 5 or 10 miles. Sometimes I'd leave when it was later in the afternoon, and I'd walk when there was like the sun setting and, day to night and that sort of thing. And I literally saw my world transform before my very eyes in like a matter of 2 or 3 days of listening to this. Things just started to look very, very different. Like all of my thoughts that I had previously held on these walks were changed and shifting into new and different thoughts. And it was uh, like I was reborn or something. And I just started to like really connect with things that I was seeing that I never had noticed was there before, and feeling my body feeling good, even though I had just been through this very traumatic physical thing, this medical condition, and just everything started to transform. And I've heard of people having experiences like this. Some people, it takes a little longer for this stuff to click, but there is definitely population in the community that has been immediately impacted. So I think probably the people that are immediately impacted are the people that have really gone to the depths of reality, like seen the dark places, been in really dark situations emotionally, feeling, like the world was against you, to then hear things and realize that the world wasn't actually against you, that it was all in your mind, and see that whole thing kind of crumble around you. I mean, I've never experienced anything like it before, not even close. So I think that, one, this experience that I had has been the fuel and continues to be the fuel for me doing what it is that I'm doing, which is trying to get this knowledge out into the world. And two, I'm getting this knowledge out into the world for everyone, but especially for people like me that have been like down in the, down in the dungeons of reality. Like, because it saved me. I mean, I feel like sometimes I sound like a born again Christian or something. Speaking in tongues.
Oh,
but that's that's what happened. So I think for somebody that's struggling in any direction, for any reason, around any topic, love, money, self-worth, in a whole monotonous life, don't like your life, toxic people around you, hate your job, whatever it is, if you want something new and you want change as badly as I did or as I needed it, when you hear some of these things, it's like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. And I think that's exactly what happened for me. Is I heard it and I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I've been looking for. I was like right there at that point where I was ready to shed a bunch of stuff, but I didn't know how to do it. Before I moved to Portland, I was at my parents'. I had just had this wild autoimmune issue destroy my life. And as a result, I had a complete nervous breakdown, ended up in the hospital. It was like my worst nightmare had sort of played out. And I remember being at my parents' right after I got out of the hospital, and I was sitting in their backyard, and I'm just like scrolling frantically on the internet trying to find something to help me. And I came across some Bob Proctor videos, and he kept talking about shifting your paradigm and changing your paradigm. And I was like, okay, I get it. I need to shift my paradigm. I know this is what I need to do, but I don't know what that means. I don't know what a paradigm is. I don't know how to shift it. But I knew I could feel there was something there in what Bob Proctor was saying, but it didn't give me enough. And fast forward, 4 or 5 months after that, I find transurfing. I was like, boom, that's it. That's exactly it. That's how you shift your paradigm. So then I just started applying this stuff. And ever since then, it's resolved. My life isn't problem free now. I go through the same challenges that most people go through, but their impact on me is like a fraction, of what it used to be. And when I say a fraction, I mean a fraction. Everything just kind of rolls off me. Nothing impacts me heavily. Nothing is detrimental. Nothing is crushing anymore. And this for me has been the biggest gift of transurfing, to know that whatever life throws in my direction, not only can I handle it, but I can transmute it into something that I can actually use and continue on with my evolution. And this is all because of reality transurfing. So I know that was a very long answer to your question. But again, anybody struggling with anything and is there, right, is ready, like, okay, I'm tired of dealing with this. I'm tired of struggling with this thing. I'm tired of hating myself. I'm tired of whatever it is. If you're at a point where you're ready to take on something meaty and fresh that will help you, like reality transurfing could work for you almost instantly. Like as quickly as you can understand the concepts, it will work.
So, okay, so a couple things I want to follow up from that answer. Uh, one thing you mentioned was that knowledge without application is just entertainment. So, people who have maybe read the book and seen your videos, how many of the people that have actually gone down the rabbit hole, like how many of them actually shift? Because I think this is an important point, this piece of understanding the knowledge, but then not actually, implementing the principles in your day-to-day life, right? Because that's really the
Yeah.
crux of the work. So I'm curious, what have you seen with the people that have actually implemented it? What is their character, or why do some people, or a small kind of percentage of people, actually implement it and others just kind of observe?
Yeah, that's a great question. First off, I have seen some crazy things with people and heard some really, really crazy things. Um, Many of my moderators and admins for my Facebook group, the reason that I've chosen them to sort of help me man this ship is because, like, we're the ragtag bunch of like people in the spiritual world that should not be here. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Yep.
are we were the dreg of reality at a certain point, and everybody's like writing books and like traveling the world now, you know? And it's awesome stuff. It's like they're they're doing it. You know, they're doing the work. Not to come off as like super harsh, but I think a lot of the people that don't get the results that they want with transurfing, it stems from laziness. You can't, you can't sit on the couch night after night and watch hours of Netflix and wonder why your life is not getting any better. Like you have to get in there and start making moves. And I've developed some tools to help people do this, like the Anomalous Action Challenge, which is immensely helpful for the people that have read the book and they're not seeing the results. Oftentimes that missing ingredient is action. But we're kind of in a we're kind of in in an era where we have this strange sort of phenomenon going on where we have this hustle culture and this grind culture, and it's on display for other people to see, and it's glorified. So then people are kind of divided. It's like either you're a hustler and grinder, or you're somebody watching a hustler or a grinder on Instagram.
Oh my gosh,
you know
that's
and
so good.
it, it's sad. It's true, it's funny, it's also sad. But I think what happens is this hustle culture is like, people like Gary Vee. I like Gary Vee. I think he's got a lot of interesting things to say, but he's kind of showing this image, and it's like, listen, if you can't do this, then you're not going to win. Like, you've got to do this, and the cool thing about transurfing, and this is great for people that are self-doubters or people that don't know what it is they're doing. Like, I didn't go to college. I have a ninth grade education. I have no formal training of any kind. And entering the world with negative skills, no skill set, like, in fact, debilitated by my crushing low self-esteem and all that kind of stuff. Like, I was scared to ever make a move. I was scared to ever take a shot or take any action or throw myself out there. And for certain people, they'll get a little bit of a sense of satisfaction just by watching somebody else do it, like Gary Vee. They won't actually, most people probably don't ever actually take any steps on their own. But with transurfing kind of teaches you that, like, you don't have to resolve or become anyone that isn't who you are right now to start making moves and taking steps. That it's in your movement forward with, doing things imperfectly, that you can actually learn how to do things well. And this is a giant stop for a lot of people that want to get out of where they are, but that fear holds them back. And I think that, again, fork in the road, the people that it works for are the people that understand that your imperfect self as you are right now is just as capable to start making moves as a developed or evolved version of yourself. And those that believe that they've got to fix themselves first before making a move, those are the people that never make moves, because you'll never fix yourself. And this is one of the most enlightening and miraculous concepts or bit of information that I've come in contact with. That I have endured trauma. I did grow up poor white trash, uneducated. I have made lots of mistakes in my life, but all of that stuff is coming with me on the adventure. I'm not going to not go on the adventure so I can turn back and try to sift through all that stuff, all that junk first, because then my life's just going to pass me by. So luckily enough, I saw this difference in perspective, and I was just like, okay, lower self, we're going in this direction, and this is what we're doing. And in dragging my lower self kicking and screaming at first, lower self started to evolve as well and become less demanding and less scared. And it's like, it's the movement forward that resolves all that stuff behind you, not the other way around, that you've got to resolve all that stuff first so you can move forward. So that's the difference, is people that just start taking the steps regardless of where they are now, and people that feel like there's still work to do before they can take steps.
That's so powerful, Renee. Thank you so much for sharing that. Because I think what I've noticed is people feel kind of, they're stuck in their own rumination loop of the past or something that didn't work, and they feel like they have to, shift their sort of inner state first before making major moves. But it's sort of it's like a chicken and egg, right? You have to take action, you have to shift the inner state, but it's not one or the other, right? It's both. And so I really love that philosophy, because I think people usually have a polarized view of one or the other, right? Like you just have to shift your inner state or you just have to take action, but it's really this mixture of both, which I really appreciate about reality transurfing. So I want to actually switch gears and talk a little bit about something that we haven't really spoken about, but you alluded to. You said, now at this point in your life, you, of course, experience, adversity and challenges like everyone else, but you don't get stuck in it. And I think this is an important concept to talk about, this excess potential, and also what an induced transition is and how people can move out of it.
Which one do you want me to start on first?
Let's talk about excess potential and move into induced transition, or whatever feels more natural to you to start with.
Okay, so excess potential is imbalance that we create in our reality that oftentimes delivers us exactly what we don't want to see happen. And it originates in our minds. So, like, an example, let's say you are going for a job interview and you lost your job, you're super hard up for cash, and you get a call back for an interview for a job that you really, really want. So what usually happens is the person will sort of buy into their desire, like hook, line, and sinker, right? Oh my God, this is the best job that I could ask for. I've got to get this job. This job's going to mean everything for me. It's going to solve all of my problems. It's going to give me the cash that I need. It's going to make me feel good about myself. I'm going to be living the life. I've got to get this job. But on the other hand, there might be some fear or some sensations of unworthiness or desperation. Oh my God, what happens if I don't get this job? So then the person goes into the job interview with this extreme desire, but at the same time, their desperation and nervousness and feelings of unworthiness. So then they sit down at the interview desk, and I know this is kind of old-fashioned because it probably doesn't happen like this anymore. Everything's now over Zoom, so you could probably hide a lot of that. But just roll with it. You go in front of the guy and you start, talking, and it comes out that you're a little desperate or nervous, so nervous that you mess the interview up and you don't get the job. And then afterwards, you're like just bottomed out, depressed, devastated. All of your hopes and dreams, everything that job was going to do for you just comes crashing down, and you can't get out of bed for a week, and you hate yourself, and you doubt if you're ever going to be able to provide for yourself again. So this plays out in lots of different ways in life. This could be the marriage proposal that never comes. It could be the miscarriage of a pregnancy. It could be a gift you were expecting for your birthday that doesn't arrive. You thought your partner was going to give you a piece of jewelry, but instead he gave you a vacuum cleaner. It could be any type of scenario where you were delivered the opposite of what it was that you wanted. And this sends you into a downward spiral. So what happens is we create a version of reality in our mind. The perfect job, the perfect engagement, the perfect baby, the perfect gift, the perfect this, the perfect vacation. Vacations are a really good example. So I'm sure you've had a vacation that you really, really look forward to. And then you got there and it was raining, you got, food poisoning, you got your purse stolen, maybe had too much to drink one night and you woke up the next day feeling absolutely horrendous and you're like, oh my God, but I'm on vacation. Why do I feel like this? So what happens is we build up in our minds this version of reality that we would like to see, and we bank on this version of reality. We put all of our, emotional eggs in one basket. We load up this ideal version that we want to see materialize with virtually all of our energetic resources. And when you do this, you're essentially just gambling with reality, but the odds are not in your favor, because this excess potential that you creates an imbalance in your reality, which your reality actually responds to delivering to you exactly what it is that you don't want to see. We do this with our own thoughts and actions unknowingly. So what happens is we create this version of reality we really, really want to see. It hasn't materialized yet, but then we go in and we sort of muck it up on our own and facilitate our reality not giving it to us. And then when we don't get it, we are devastated and we plunge down to what we see as the lower levels of reality in transurfing. And a lot of people live their lives on this kind of roller coaster. Something doesn't work out. You alluded to patterns earlier, like why somebody keeps seeing a pattern play in their life. Well, the reason they keep seeing the pattern play in their life is because they don't know what it is they're doing, but they're doing this. So let's take romantic relationships, for example. You get into a relationship, you're like, oh my God, this is like the guy of my dreams, the girl of my dreams, whoever of my dreams. This person's perfect for me. I never have to be alone again. This is it. We're going to get married, or we're going to be together forever. This is amazing. And then you load up that relationship with your expectations for all of those things, which may or may not be in the cards. But then if you see subtle changes that aren't in your favor in the relationship, then you go about trying to correct what it is that you're seeing, actually making it worse. You exacerbate it with desperation or panic, or throwing in your low self-esteem into the mix, or feeling like the person doesn't desire you because you have this idea and it's not coming to fruition. So then you mess up, maybe cheat on the person, creating even more problems in the situation, or whatever. I mean, these things play out in an infinite number of ways. But then the relationship dissolves and you come out of it. You're like, oh God, that was horrible. It was all the other person's fault. It had nothing to do with me. And then you find someone else and you do the same thing. You're like, oh no, but this one really is it. Right. And then you go into the same thing again. You don't understand that you're just building excess potential. That excess potential comes crashing down. And then to make yourself feel better and to feel as though, you're not the one accountable for anything, you essentially try to resolve all that stuff that just happened with the new relationship, but it probably has the same sort of, there's the same, it plays out the same way. It's destined for the same outcome. So what happens when a person lives a life of constantly creating excess potential around various subjects and then seeing that excess potential come crashing down? You kind of dig yourself into some reality holes that can be kind of hard to come out of. That's what happened for me, at least. And, getting back to what we were originally talking about, evidence to support all theories, and there's information to support any idea that you have about yourself and your life. When you see a number of things come crashing down around you, then you could develop a theory saying, well, nothing ever works out for me. I'm just not the type of person that has luck with relationships, or I'm unlovable, or I'm, destined to stay in poverty, because you build excess potential and it came crashing down a number of times about financial matters. So then you just kind of resign yourself as sort of a means to justify everything that's happened, or support yourself to, it's like kind of like a self-preservation or protection mode. So moving into an induced transition, then an induced transition is essentially you existing on the lower levels of reality. So what I like to offer my community, this is my own visual representation of the alternative space, very, very small and very practical for someone like me that needs to return to very practical little ideas about how reality works every day, just so I can stay on track. I like to think of the alternative space as being 10 levels of reality that I have access to daily. So the top layer of reality is level 10. It's me living my best life. Everything's going right. I'm in harmony with my environment. I'm doing well. I'm feeling healthy. I've got love in my life. I'm not overly concerned with financial matters. In fact, level 10 is the wave of fortune, so things could be going very, very well. Businesses are going well. Everything's looking up. Everything's beautiful, and it's like your best life. Level 1 is your worst life. It's you waking up depressed, not wanting to get out of bed, having anxiety, feeling heartbreak, worrying about finances, all of your worst stuff, all of your worst nightmares. So on any given day, I can sort of experience 10 or 1, given what I do with my mind and how that connects to reality, and then everything in between. Level 5 is what we call the frozen state, or the state of inaction, when you're sort of just like, reality is what it is. It's neither good nor bad. You're just sort of existing. So the induced transition is level 1. The wave of fortune is level 10. Level 5 is inactive state and kind of being frozen or stuck in place. So when you think of excess potential and how this correlates to the induced transition, imagine that you're on level 5 and you get the job offer. And you envision level 10, but you're not actually at level 10. You've just created it in your mind. Again, you're rolling the dice. Either reality is going to give you this thing or it's not. If you hit it, then you might be on level 10, but chances are you're going to mess it up with excess potential. and you're not going to get it. So when you don't get it, because you're looking at that level 10 from level 5, what happens when you don't get it is you don't just stay on level 5. You go down to level 1 or level 2. You get what I'm saying? It plunges you even deeper because you essentially took an energetic loan from reality. You borrowed energy, you borrowed happiness, you borrowed promise or stability before reality actually showed you that thing, and you overvalued these things. So when the thing didn't come to fruition and the opportunity dissolved, all those things left with it. And this sort of sends you plummeting energetically to those lower levels of reality. And a lot of people, especially these days, are doing like a roller coaster ride between the bottom levels to the mid level, hoping to get up to the top levels. And then, I mean, some people do. I know people who are doing it, but with times the way that they are, it is, reality's unstable right now. And if you don't catch yourself, you could go on a pretty scary roller coaster ride.
Yes.
I hate to laugh. I always laugh at those really dark little visions, those little animated things I have in my head, because that's really how it is for me. And I laugh simply because I've experienced that.
I love your laugh, Renee. I think it's adorable. I'm like, I've watched so many of your videos that I know that laugh. It's sweet actually. So people are on this roller coaster ride from like level 1 to level 5 and kind of everything in between. What, because since we're coming at time, and by the way, I feel like I could talk to you for all day long about this. This is such great stuff.
It's a meaty subject.
Yes. There's so much. And for people who don't know how big the volume 1 through 5 is, it's about 1,000 pages, right?
It's a big book.
It's a big book.
Boy, yeah.
Yeah. I read it twice, and I feel like the first time I read it, it felt like I didn't even grasp 90% of the concepts. I had to read it again, and I'm sure probably read it a couple more times. It's so meaty. I want to give folks listening something to kind of take away from this conversation and put into action in real time. So I thought it'd be a good idea for you to maybe give us advice on the hygiene, the thought quality hygiene that we need to have day to day. And like, maybe like a morning or an evening routine. What's worked for you, and what is your thought quality these days? Like, what do you spend your time thinking about? If you could give us an example, so that could be helpful.
Yeah, well, let me start with saying one of the things that has really helped me, and this is a practice, and this is a long-term practice. It's not something that you can do once or twice and see the benefits. You got to get into it, but it's definitely worth it. The practice is asking yourself in the moments where things aren't going your way, or you're not seeing what it is you want to see out of life or yourself or the people in your life, is divert any accountability that you're trying to place on your world or other people in your life back to yourself, and ask yourself, are the thoughts that I'm thinking and the actions that I'm taking, are they in line with the version of me that gets what it is that I want? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Like, if I was this future state person, would I be thinking these things right now?
Yeah. So Controversial character, I know. I love to throw his name around sometimes just because it always gets everybody all hot and bothered. But Elon Musk, great example. So Elon Musk, I don't aspire to be Elon Musk. I don't even really know the person, or I just know that he's a successful person. But I think in my head sometimes, if things aren't playing out the way that I want to see them play out, or a project's not going the way that I want it to go, I think to myself, what would Elon Musk do? Like, would Elon Musk fall apart? You know, like would it all come crashing down, and would he get into bed for 3 days because the thing just imploded? Or a character like Elon Musk, somebody that you envision as having the utmost, like, whatever it is that you deem something power, the sense of power, being powerful, or intelligence, or whatever. And you can then apply that to you. So reality transurfing is connecting with all the different variations of reality, choosing a higher variation of reality where you are going to benefit more. But at the same time, it also connects you with a multitude of variations of yourself. You can choose a higher variation of yourself. So asking yourself, okay, this version of me, this future version of me, or this alternate version of me that has obtained this thing, how does that person, that version of me, how does that version of me act, or think, or feel, or what's the emotional state of that version of me? So getting back to a project sort of, falling apart or not going in the direction that I wanted it to go. So that higher version of me, how does that higher version of me deal with it to, like, get it back on the rails? Or how does that higher version of me feel with the completion of that project? And getting yourself out of that version of you that aligns to that variation not playing out in your intended direction. So when you mention thought hygiene, this is like the perfect way to look at it. Tomorrow or today, throughout your day, anytime something seemingly is not playing out the way that you want it to, try to switch over to that higher version of yourself. And then that reality that coincides with that version of you at least has the opportunity to materialize, because when you're in that other state, that's why you're getting what it is that you're getting. So it's state of being first, then that version of reality that you want to see play out. And even if you just, like, if you're happy with your life the way that it is, but you just want a boost in your mood, or a general sense of improvement of your experience of reality, being that version of you first, catching yourself when you're not, and shifting over to that perceived version of you. This is like, if you can get into this, it is absolutely life-changing. Absolutely. I mean, it's completely changed my world. So that would be my takeaway. And I know it sounds a little bit ambiguous and vast and all that, and that's really why there's 1,000 videos on Transurfing TV of me explaining these things, and from every direction that I could possibly think of, because I understand that it seems a little bit overwhelming, but if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Amazing. I love that so much, because it really shifts your self-concept and your self-identity, right? And I think we didn't get a chance to really talk about the self-concept specifically, but this concept that you just described really is about that, right? It's like, who would I be? What would I be thinking about if I already had this thing? If I was a New York Times, best-selling author, what would I be thinking right now?
It's all in the identity shift. Yeah, it's all in the identity shift, 100%.
Right.
That's got to be your first step.
Right, absolutely. And it's interesting. I read the books of Frederick Dotson, and I noticed that there's like a lot of details that are kind of similar to reality transurfing, different,
Mm-hmm.
of course. But I'm curious if you've also read Frederick Dotson's books at all, or know of him.
I haven't read his books, but I actually did a seminar with him in the UK a number of years ago
Oh,
and
wow.
got to listen to him, talking about these things for 3 days. And yeah, it's essentially transurfing just in another slightly different language, really. But yeah, he's doing it too. And all of these things that I'm talking about, he's 100%. This is exactly the stuff he's talking about. Also, just using different words.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think there's very little information about Vadim Zeland online, but, we didn't get a chance to dig into this, but I know he has a background kind of as this Russian mystic, has a little bit of quantum physics background. But I'm definitely interested in like the science and the quantum physics piece of this, of this whole world. And because of time, we can't really get into it. So I hope that we can maybe have a secondary conversation at some point and talk about this, or if if you could recommend someone who can really speak to that layer, to that piece. Because I think for people that are skeptical about the metaphysical world or manifestation, I think having something grounded in that, right now
Yeah.
there's a lot of pseudoscience. But yeah, if you feel comfortable or if you can speak to that, I think it would be great to have a follow up on these concepts.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm probably a little bit more of the self development and spiritual side of transurfing, but I do know and understand deeply the physics that's behind what it is that I'm talking about. I understand the fundamentals of the physics behind, why these things actually work. And as Vadim Zeland says in the book, you're never asked to believe any of it. Just try it and see. And I think that the people that try it and see for themselves and actually do try it, apply it, and see what happens. These are the people that become believers, because if you legitimately do try it and you see what this knowledge is capable of doing, it's kind of hard to like turn your back on it. It's one of those things. It's just you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. I mean,
yeah,
you've read the book twice, so obviously there was enough there for you to be like, okay, I
yeah,
mean, it's a big book to read that thing twice. That's you there's a lot there, and it can be a lifelong practice. That's what I'm in it for. I love it, and every single day I continue to learn more. It keeps on giving to me. So, for now and for as long as I can imagine, I'm into it. But it's there's a lot of different facets to it for sure.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Renee. Thank you for putting this work into the world. Last question. So, what has surprised you the most on this journey?
I think, can I take two of them? I'll
Yeah, of
make them
course,
short.
of course.
I think the first one, the one that has been just beyond, I'm so grateful to have this experience that it's hard for me to even put it into words. But I grew up lower level, poverty level, lower middle class family, trailer park. Nobody ever went to college. Everybody worked low wage jobs, all that kind of stuff. And I had a lot of things in my life that were traumatic, abuse and people with drug and alcohol problems, and um, I didn't have a nice childhood, and my 20s were a nightmare, an abusive marriage, and my own problems with drugs and alcohol and depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. I never had any idea that not only was I going to become okay with those things, but I was going to actually end up using those things to help other people. Like I was going to turn all that stuff into benefit and make stories out of these things that help people. My book, A Tale of Practical Reality Transurfing, I look at those chapters and I'm like, oh my God, this is a miracle. This is amazing that I've been able to do this now with this stuff. So, turning the lead into gold and making all those negatives into positives, I feel so unbelievably blessed. Yeah, it's just, I'm beyond grateful. The second thing is how I haven't become bored of this stuff. That's 7 years in. You said you read the book twice. I've read it, in a non-linear way, building my lessons and my courses and my videos. And I've probably read it. I can't even imagine how many times. I know it like the back of my hand. And I'm still super excited to talk about it every day, 7 years later. It's like, how can that be? It's just wild. I mean, 1,000 videos on YouTube, and I'm still like thinking of what I'm going to talk about on my next video. It's wild. And I think this is the thing that I hope for anyone out there that's struggling right now, or that's not feeling as though life has meaning, or you haven't found that thing that's bringing you passion into your life, or helping you to feel like there's hope and there's a whole world in front of you to be discovered, that thing is out there for you. It might be transurfing, it might be something entirely different, but that thing is out there for you. And I just hope for everyone listening out there that you find the ability to take action in your life and connect with that thing, because life takes on a whole new meaning when you have something that you just absolutely love and could do every day and never get bored of it.
Amen. I love that so much, Renee. Yeah, it's really powerful when you see someone who has found their purpose and their mission and their passion. And there's a Vadim Zeland quote: "Success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, however old or young, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, something that's bigger than you are, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today." Amazing.
Oh my God.
So good, right?
It is so good. It's so good because like all of those fears of me like being older and falling to ill health and not having, just like all those fears that most people have about just getting old and feeling discontent with life. Like I can honestly see myself being like 80 years old and like leaping out of bed to go make a transurfing video.
Oh, I love that so much. I love it.
I hope that reality comes to materialization.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. And we didn't even get to talk about your own kind of quantum leaps in the last 7 years. So we'll have to have you back on the show to talk about the physics piece, your journey, how many times you've leaped into different realities. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Renee. You've been an inspiration to so many people. I am so supportive of your work, and it's changed my life. I've also shared it with a ton of other people. And so are there any resources that you can point folks to in order to learn more about you and learn more about reality transurfing and some of the courses that you have online?
Yeah, we've got a ton of stuff, both free and premium. We have transurfing.us, the website. You can find everything on there. There's courses, links to all the social media. All the resources are there. We have a Facebook group with 10,000 people. There's Transurfing TV on YouTube with over 1,000 videos. There's a Tale of Practical Reality Transurfing. I release a chapter. I've taken a little break since I moved abroad, but I was releasing a chapter a month. And this is like reality transurfing steps 1 through 5, but told in a practical context of, how I've actually lived it in my life. It's pretty powerful and it's a lot of fun. Instagram reality_transurfing, and find your way to any of that stuff. And I'm sure you can find your way to the rest of it. But if you have any questions at all, you can come into the Facebook group, the International Transurfing Institute Facebook group, and me or everyone there would be very happy to help you with any question you have.
Amazing, amazing, great. And I also want to give a special shout out to Terza for helping set this up. She's also been very lovely to connect with. So thank you, Terza.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, she'll be happy to hear that. Thank you.
Of course, Renee. And thank you so much for your time. And for our audience, thanks for joining and for listening. In this episode, we learned about how to surf reality and exit the matrix with reality transurfing expert Renee Garcia. You can tune in to Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. Thanks again.
Want to get away, but not sure where? Visit Union Square Travel Agency. We're New York's largest legal cannabis dispensary, and our huge selection of premium flower, vaporizers, edibles, and pre-rolls can send you places you've never been. Visit us at 13th and Broadway or at unionsquaretravelagency.com to get away without going anywhere. For use only by adults 21 and older. Keep out of reach of children and pets. In case of accidental ingestion or overconsumption, contact the National Poison Control Center. Consume responsibly.